Okay, I gotta tell you, this is an on-time bunch. This is right exactly when we're supposed to start. And you're in for a real treat here. I spent a little time talking to Katrina before we went live, and we concluded that we probably don't know each other. So I read through her paperwork here really quickly, and damn, I don't know how I could not know somebody this influential. I'm really surprised. And somebody called the Scrum Mother. You've got to respect that. I mean, that's something that's been earned, I'm sure. But from what I can tell here, one of the things that I see that there's a few things that always impress me. One is that you've written a book and are actually working on your second book already. That to write a book, I've done that, so I know to write a book is no easy chore. And so to write two, you can imagine. So we look at someone who's been that. I also see as I look into it, a lot of the human aspect of empathy and motivational theory and those kinds of things, which I think are really missed by a lot of project managers. So this really makes me happy to see people who this is what they do with their life. She's educated quite well, as a matter of fact, conflict management, and MS in conflict management, bunch of international business. Once I saw Kennesaw State, I knew she was from Georgia. That didn't take a brain surgeon to know that. And so she's continued her education and works on things from a standpoint of value add. I really, really like your paperwork. It in a one page, it really tells me an awful lot about you. So I'd like to turn the time over. I'm very anxious to hear what the Scrum Mother has to say.
Well,
Katrina
wonderful.
Coker, please.
Yes, thank you so much. Can I get a thumbs up that you see the future of the Scrum Master role? Awesome. All right. So yes, my name is Katrina Coker. I go by the Scrum Mother, of a term of endearment a previous teammate gave me actually, but it is also now the name of my company. And if we have time, I would love to tell you that story. But I first want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for being at this conference. Thank you for joining in my session. The other speaker, Dawn, is just as amazing or more amazing, more experienced. And so my goal is for this to be one of the most productive times of your day. And I'm going to ask you at the end if this was productive and valuable for you. This QR code here will take you to my website, but what that will do is I'll take you to where the Amazon link for the book. It'll tell you more about some of the ways I can help you. And I would love to chat with you more. So this will be super high level. But if there's anything you'd like to dive into deeper, please feel free to reach out to me. But on that note, first question, this is most of my presentations are more presenter style, more educational. This is actually going to be a dialogue. I'm looking to hear from us and help guide this. It's not lean coffee, but it is going to be very interactive. So my first question, and you can come off mute or you can post this in the chat, is when you saw the title or read the description, what about this are you seeking to get out of this session? And you can come off mute or you can post in the chat.
I can go ahead.
Go ahead, Jordan.
So I've heard of the term Scrum Master plenty, and I've even been told that I should get certified, but I honestly don't know much about it. So I'm here to find out what the future is, I guess, about it.
Okay.
And even what it is now to start.
Okay, that's good to know. All right. Understanding the evolution of the mother of it. Okay. All right. How does AI evolve the Scrum Master role? Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. As always, thank you for being here. Anyone else have a high level of, just got reactions? Okay. All right. So AI is a big topic of this conference surrounding all things related to project management. So I am going to, we'll get to that. But before we get to that, as someone who wants to become Scrum Master, I would like to know how it works in real life. Okay. So setting some expectations as to what we'll cover. We'll cover who I am, why I'm here. What does a Scrum Master do? The future of the Scrum Master role, how AI fits into all that. We'll have some Q&A. Now, with that being said, we will not go over Agile and Scrum 101, nor the Scrum Guide Scrum certifications. However, Jordan, I don't want to disappoint you. I think that some of this conversation will still be valuable and you'll have a key takeaway as to some of the things we do, and at least will get you started on whether you want to pursue this. Okay. So we already talked about why you're here. Just a little introduction about me. I'm not going through all of this. I'm from the state of Georgia. I'm from Beaufort, Georgia. If you ever hear of Molalla, Georgia, or Lake Lanier in the state of Georgia, that's where I'm originally from. I live in Johns Creek, Georgia now, which is a little bit south, a little bit closer to Atlanta with my cats. I love to travel. Food is my favorite food. And fun fact, I accomplished my first half marathon on my 40th birthday this year using Scrum and using the iterative process of Scrum. It was almost a flawless day. And that is fact. And I also use Scrum. I use a 1-week sprint at home to manage my personal and professional life. Now, with that being said, how did I get here and what brings me credibility to be able to chat with y'all today? I have a background in, as Lee said, in my master's conflict management, international business. Through the Agile community, I was a business analyst, then product owner, then Scrum Master. Fast forward, also now coach and mentor other Scrum Masters. I have my own company as a business owner. I have a social media platform where I teach all about Agile Scrum and the Scrum Master role. And then from there, that content, thanks to people asking great questions, actually, yes, led me to write my first book, Scrum Master Application and Interview Process, which most people, when they reach out to me to have a one-on-one and I point them to this book, if they're interested, most people find that they don't even need to meet with me. So that might be a good starting point for you. But why does that matter? This matters because obviously I'm heavily invested in the future of the Scrum Master role. I am a practicing Scrum Master, coaching other Scrum Masters, and obviously have a book, and I'm working on my second book, Scrum Master First 90 Days. So I am very interested in what this path may look like. So if you have those questions, I have those questions, and wanted to make sure that anytime I'm spending devoted to you, that I'm pointing you in the right direction. Okay. So that's where I come today. Now, I always give this disclaimer that this is of my opinion and not necessarily industry standard of the companies that I work for, just to cover myself just a little bit. So before we start off though, what does a Scrum Master do? Okay, high level, my Scrum Master philosophy. Is there anyone here that saw any of my content on or my presentations on how to get experience as a Scrum Master without being a Scrum Master?
I have.
No. Who said
No,
I?
unfortunately, no.
Lynette.
I think I've seen it on TikTok or something, right?
Yes. Yes. So most of my presentations start because I'm talking about things and people ask questions, and so it expands. So where this comes from is I believe that the two qualities that make for a great Scrum Master are operations and compassion, which is why this personally is the best role for me, because we are the get stuff done people, right? That it's a lot of times in my jobs, I always felt, hey, I like the people, but not what I'm doing, or I like what I'm doing, but I don't like the people and what's going on. But this is something that I get to merge both, to where you have to be able to get stuff done. You have to be able to bring value and move things forward, no matter how likable you are, right? But you can't be moving things forward and trying to bring value if you're not likable and if you don't have the soft skills. So this role is why it's also not necessarily what does a Scrum Master do? I like to say, what does a Scrum Master not do? And so some of the high level things are, obviously Scrum is at our core. So you can't be a Scrum Master, or if you don't know what the Scrum Guide is and you don't practice Scrum. And so that's always a starting point. That's a core for our foundation. But there's so much that we do outside the Scrum role that is getting things done and facilitation, roadmap, coaching, mentoring, feedback, all that stuff. So my next question to you is there anything else that you feel like a Scrum Master does or has done in your role that is not accounted for here?
Coaching. I don't see coaching.
Coaching. Yeah, coaching and mentoring. So I have that under compassion, but coaching and no, that's a big one. It's, if we can always overemphasize. So with that being said, these are some things that I do as a Scrum Master every single day to bridge the gaps. I like to use the analogy of Scrum Masters like Smokey the Bear. If you've ever heard of does anybody who know who Smokey the Bear is? Jordan, who's Smokey the Bear?
He helps advocate for preventing wildfires.
Yes, preventing forest fires. So I say Scrum Masters are the one that are to prevent forest fires, smell the smoke before anybody else, corral the troops to be able to put out the forest fires, and then afterwards go, what can we do to prevent forest fires next time, and what can we do to make sure that we have all the resources to be successful? And when I say resources, I'm talking about things, not people, to make sure that we can put out the forest fires better, right? So we do a lot, right? Now, next question I have for you is, out of these things, well, actually, let me ask, is there anyone here that has been a Scrum Master and your role may have been eliminated? Mine was. Is there anyone else? Okay, that's okay. So the question is, South, you did? Okay.
No, I was just saying I have been a Scrum Master, yeah, and a product owner. So
You
I thought that
have
was
been,
the
okay.
yeah.
So
For
where
many-
this
for many years.
is, yeah, so my role was actually eliminated as a full-time Scrum Master this year, but they still exist. The role, the responsibility that I had are now folded up, and I'll come back to that. But out of these, as we think about artificial intelligence and the future, from y'all's perspective, what do you feel like Scrum Masters will continue to do? Well, no, which of these do you think that with the evolution of artificial intelligence, Scrum Masters will no longer do from this list? Let's see, Bola said, knowing the thinking behind taking notes. Well, I will tell you that taking notes is one thing that I will always take notes. I'm taking notes now, but as we use our tools such as AI Companion and Zoom and Teams Copilot, that is this thing that are summarizing notes and action items. We may not ever do it again, but we may not do it at the same level that we have been doing it in the past. Is there anything else that you think that from what a Scrum Master does today that it will look different in the future? Okay. Out of these things, which do you feel like that can never be replaced by a human, by a non-human? Go ahead, South. What is your thought?
Facilitation.
Facilitation. Why do you feel like humans will never be replaced from facilitation?
Because, well, in my experience, this one of the key things the Scrum Master does is bring humans together so that they collectively succeed, right? And align to whatever the sprint goals are or the product goals. And it's not the kind of thing that you would automate with AI.
Actually, let's see, Crystal, let's see, people said stand-up meetings, yeah, daily Scrum, coaching, facilitation, conflict management, teamwork, human touch is needed. Who was in Dr. Morris's presentation just before this? If you can give me a thumbs up. Okay, emoji. All right, Lane says me. So one quote he said that I thought was just so powerful was, you cannot automate adaptability. And for me, I feel like that sums it up. Anything like the soft skills that you need a companion. That human connection will never be replaced. I think the stuff that like even now in some of our backlog management tools, AI is making our backlog management easier, can create roadmaps where we don't necessarily have to do that manually anymore. Where if you've worked in Excel or even created yourself tables and you're doing your cells and merging cells, you may not have to do that anymore, right? That might be something that will look different. It doesn't mean that responsibility, that roadmaps and backlog management won't be needed. It just may not be needed as much of a human touch. But what will we need? Even with data and reporting, we need somebody to analyze it. We need well, first of all, we need somebody to put the information in. make sure that the information is correct, but we need somebody to analyze it. We need to be able to look and say, hey, these are some trends that I'm seeing. Yeah, Elaine says human intervention. I think that even with summarizing notes, right now, they're not always correct. And they don't always spell things right, and they don't always say things right. Or I had a meeting recorded a few weeks ago that AI didn't work. It just couldn't, it stopped working. So I didn't have summary. So I actually ended up having to go back and doing that myself. Or I usually use case of, I had a teammate that their name is Jared, and they spell it J-A-R-D. That's how he spells his name. And AI continuously kept spelling it J-A-R-E-D. And if you just keep forwarding things without editing, without reviewing the content of it, it can both demoralize the people that you were sending it to, invalidating them in their perspective, as well as it can invalidate and demoralize your own reputation as being lazy, right? Artificial intelligence and all tools that we use are supposed to help these things be better. It's supposed to help our role. It's supposed to make us shine, right? We, instead of being the tool of the tool, that's supposed to help us do deliver to our customers even better than we could before. When I did this presentation a few weeks ago, I remember using a typewriter. Does anybody remember using a typewriter? Give me a thumbs up or post in the comments. I actually see some head shaking. Yeah, so I imagine when using a typewriter, they would be, when we had these computers coming in, I imagine them going, oh no, they're going to replace us. And now, like, replacing the people, like, oh, those computers are going to replace the people, or being so afraid of using these computers. How? I don't ever want to let go of my typewriter. And that might be something now that might seem funny. And so we look back and go, what has been the evolution of our tools and technology up to this point, and how any role that we have can actually be escalated, elevated because of the things of our resourcefulness. It's not the resourcefulness of the tool, but our human resourcefulness, right? AI got started because of someone's human resourcefulness. Did anybody, let me ask you this, what was your first experience, your earliest first experience with artificial intelligence? Did anybody remember Clippy? Do you know who Clippy is? From Microsoft Word, right? Or the thesaurus or spell check. Those are forms of artificial intelligence that have been way long ago, right? I think now, I do remember, I think it's spell check. Yeah, spell check, all those things. Those were ways that we were using this type of technology long before that's what it was called. So where I'm one that I might get scared of new technology, that's an example of, like, well, we may have been using it before we thought. We may be more literate in this than we thought. Or yes, the example of Alexa. Anybody have an Alexa or Echo Dot at home? Or I think that there's one called Apple Home that does similar things. Those are all forms also to make our lives better. But it's also about how we use them. Or yeah, hey Google, stuff like that. All right, so trends that I'm seeing in the Scrum Master role, right? The first is title change. It may not always be called Scrum Master, right? We're already seeing Agile Delivery Lead, Scrum Lead, Continuous Improvement Lead. There are things that, like, oh, is Scrum Master one word or 2 words? Some places it's, in the Scrum Guide, it's actually 2 words, but in the CSM certification, it's 1 word, and people are saying, does it even matter? And it may not matter because it may not actually be called that anymore, right? And I have I have worked with persons of colors on my team that actually refused to call it a Scrum Master role because they felt that it was inappropriate. Or they would just call it a Scrum, or they would call it, hey, my team lead. And so those are social dynamics that cause changes anyway, at all. And honestly, Scrum Master was a term where the first team gave that. So new teams may decide, hey, that may not be right anymore. So these are some things that you might want to be look at. That Agile team coach is another one. Yes, Agile team coach is a big one. And in fact, those might even be better terms for it, because in our teams, even when I use Scrum, there are many Agile practices that we can end up using that fall outside of the Scrum guide. Okay. Some other trends that I'm seeing in the future of this role is more combined roles. So, such as in my role, my role was eliminated at the beginning of this year. They were operating in a safe framework. So there was a Scrum Master and a release train engineer, and they actually combined the roles. So the release train engineer was actually going to be operating at the release train level and the delivery team level. So that's one thing that we might see. We might have combined product owner Scrum Master role, or combined product manager Scrum Master role. Many times dual roles are red flags to me if they are in fact two full-time roles, right? So I'm not saying that I agree with the trends. I'm just telling you what some options are that if you're open and being flexible about what your goals are, these are some things you might be aware of. Now, I'm going to give you some other examples. Last week, I have a friend that has been looking for a new Scrum Master role, and I'm like, hey, I don't know if you're going to find as many full-time employee Scrum Master fully dedicated roles, but she reached out and said, hey, I just signed an offer letter. And I'm also telling people that it is difficult to land your first Scrum Master role, but it's not impossible. Let me tell you why. I have another friend that was trying for over a year she was doing all the research, attending all the meetups. It took her over a year. She then ended up having 3 job offers. Her husband was a barber, and he had a client that was like, hey, you might be a good Scrum Master. He was a Scrum Master the next day. So I don't have a crystal ball to be able to say exactly what's going to happen, but these are some trends. And then the third one, which is where I'm at now, is the contract Scrum Master roles, either short-term for a set period, or you could just remain with the company for a long time, for years at a time, in a contract role. Okay. The trends that I'm seeing, the questions that we want to talk about is going back to 2 things. How did Agile project management start? What were the problems that it was trying to solve versus traditional project management? Teamwork, collaboration, the ability to get continuous feedback, deliver products that people want and need. So what I always tell people is, when you're working for a company, one of the best questions to ask is, okay, if you're interviewing for companies, saying, why did you go to Agile? Or why did you go to Scrum? What were the problems you were trying to solve? If someone says, oh, because the other people were doing it, that's going to be a key indicator that it may not last long, that it might just be a buzzword. But if it's in a case where they actually have real world problems, that the way they were doing it was not working, then that's a key indicator that they understand that it's logical and it makes sense. And that, again, with the Scrum Master role, why do you have a Scrum Master? What is this role feeling that it couldn't be done elsewhere, right? So we're seeing many of, like I said here, the dual roles, and this combination of traditional project management, Agile project management, and having companies having their people go back in the office Monday through Friday, being very micromanagerial. My expectation is that's going to only get to a point, and then they're probably going to change again. But in addition to, the companies that want to be the most innovative will always put their people first. People over processes, which is one of the primary Agile, principles, values. Sorry, one of the Agile values is, in the Agile Manifesto, is people over processes, and the companies that still value that will be the ones that are most successful. Actually, at my last company, we had an opportunity for new employees to meet with a CEO, and you can just ask them anything. So I said, what is your view on Agile? Because if the CEO thinks it's stupid or a waste of time, then that's going to be a key indicator that our role is going to be up for grabs soon. And the CEO said, Agile means to be innovative. And the companies that want to be innovative cannot be not Agile. Like to be Agile or be innovative is to be Agile, right? And the same thing with Scrum Masters. We also have to be Agile. We have to be willing to say, what is our overall goal? What do we love? What do we thrive about our role? And it may not have a Scrum Master title. Now, somebody said that Jeff Sutherland's book says it's a terrible idea to combine roles. So again, I think it all depends on what the situation is. If in my experience, where you have people in dual roles, they get pulled in two different ways, and they might even be on two different teams, and that in itself decreases productivity, and it decreases ability to be all in. And my experience is both roles, meaning not one's failing, not one's thriving. One is thriving and one is not, or both are not, because they're trying to do everything and not doing anything at all. But if you just have a small organization and only maybe one delivery team, one Scrum team, maybe a release train engineer could do both of those. But I also say it also depends on what you want. So in my case, I was a product owner and Scrum Master at the same time. I was a product owner, became Scrum Master. I don't know if I've ever would have become a Scrum Master. I had already been certified as a Scrum Master and a product owner, but I was actively pursuing the product owner role. And the Scrum Master role is amazing for me. I love it. And so if you get the opportunity, knowing what your goals are, to pick up some extra responsibilities, then that might be something that you can thrive on. And I don't want to say extra responsibilities. I'll just say an opportunity. If you get an opportunity to dip your toes in something that you might want to be looking at, that might be a use case for you to say, hey, I want to do that. For example, in the last role where somebody was a release train engineer and a Scrum Master. Well, when they were only a release train engineer, they had 15 teams. But when they actually became a release train engineer and Scrum Master, their teams actually shortened. So for them, that was actually a great opportunity for them. So it all depends. You just got to, everything you do, ask lots of questions. Okay, ask lots of questions as to what do you personally want and your goals, as well as what is the company's goals. Do they align? I want people to come to work and be excited to come to work, feel confident and thriving, and that might look different for everyone. Now, how AI comes into that, I'll come back to this. How AI comes to that, I actually posed on my social media, in your role as a Scrum Master, what AI tools do you use and what actions do you use them for? You don't need to read all this, but these are actual responses. I put that into ChatGPT, and these are the summary of how Scrum Masters are using AI. Drafting emails and meeting notes, designing retrospectives and workshops, backlog refinement and acceptance criteria, summarizing meeting transcripts, spreadsheet formulas and automations. I honestly don't remember what that was, to be honest. I don't remember what that comment was. Creating visuals and presentations, which I'm actually going to show you a live demo of that, as well as analyzing tone and dynamics. I asked just recently, somebody said that they use AI to better their performance evaluations as a manager, and that employees can actually take, I always recommend that Scrum Masters and everyone keep a, keep a personal backlog of what you're doing day to day. So we as Scrum Masters can then put that into ChatGPT and say, what is the value that I'm delivering, and help communicate, because a lot of times we are unable to communicate not only the value we're delivering to the company, but even in monetary revenue or generating terms. And that could be helpful. Okay, so my number one rule for Scrum Masters using AI tools is do whatever the security team tells you, for one. Because if you're working for an organization, you don't want to use any tools that your company is not allowing you to. You don't want to put any details. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't got money to be sued today. Okay, so that's my first rule. However, if I had to pick the tools that I think every Scrum Master should know how to use, the two that are going to come to mind are Microsoft Copilot, which you can use in Outlook, Teams, Word, and PowerPoint, and Zoom AI Companion. Just know how they function. There's other tools, but know how they function, right? Because these are the ones that at some point as a Scrum Master, this is your MVP. If I say, what is the minimum viable product for AI? This is it. And so trying to get good at these tools. Other tools, if allowed, is ChatGPT. And Dr. Morris's presentation, he says, treat ChatGPT as a coworker. Also think of it as a personal assistant to bounce ideas off as, same as if you had somebody sitting right next to you. I do a lot of pros and cons and what about this situation? Or I just, I'm in a business development program, fine tuning my business, and I ran through ChatGPT. These are all my product services. Which ones do you love? Which ones do you hate? Which ones should I continue? Which are my money makers? And ChatGPT can serve like that. Perplexity is another tool that operates. Well, first of all, I want to give a thumbs up. Is this helpful for y'all? Is this session being valuable? Thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways. I got a thumbs up, a few yeses. Okay, cool. So Perplexity is another tool that's similar to ChatGPT. I have not used it, but my understanding is it operates like ChatGPT, but it also can provide citations. It's more research-based. Now, is the research correct? I don't know, but it'll give you citations. Opus Clip is where you can upload videos. So like this recording, for example, you could upload it and it will actually turn your videos into clips and that you can turn into LinkedIn posts, which is really cool. I'm actually getting ready to do that. And then another one that all Scrum Masters might want to know is Gamma, Create Presentations. This is what I have a live demo of. I've walked you through my presentation, the future of a Scrum Master role. So what does that look like in AI? So Gamma is a tool that has three options to create, well, three options that I use to create a presentation. And I'm using my presentation that you're seeing in the discussion we're having as the option for this tool, okay? So the first option is you can create it from a one-line prompt. That's literally the prompt I used said something like, please create me a 60-minute presentation with 10 cards are like slides on the future of Scrum Master role. That's all it says. This is what Gamma ended up creating. There's percentages, images, gives you an agenda. This doing just the one-liner was actually the one that was the most detailed. So I thought that was fascinating. Okay. So if you are in a bind, when you might use this, if you're in a bind and you need to create a presentation, you're not really sure, you have the topic, you're not really sure what you want to say, but if you want to get a starter, this might be a way that you can use Gamma by just putting a one-liner in, see what it has. And all of this is editable. So you can remove what you don't like, you can edit. So it's not like it gets created and then you have to just go with it, right? It's a starting point. Okay. The second way is you can do an outline. So the agenda that I presented to y'all, I put that in to Gamma, and this is what it looked like. So who I am, why I'm here, it formatted some of the topics. That's it. I didn't put any images or any content. I just said just the agenda. So this was the level of detail. Added some things here and there, metrics reporting. It basically made assumptions on the one line of each line of my agenda. Okay. So you'll see here. The third way that Gamma can create a presentation is from a PDF. So the presentation that you see here, I created a PDF and I uploaded a PDF. It was actually the worst Gamma presentation. So it did not like my PDF, and like the images are all over the place. The agenda's okay, but you'll see that it just wasn't pretty. So I think now I did like my agile journey on the slide that I created. I did all of that manually. And this actually is a good use case. You could use it just for a slide. Like you could use Gamma just for a piece of content. So this is an example where it formatted all of my journey into a form of formatted agenda, what do you call it? Timeline? So those are some examples of how we as Scrum Masters can use tools to our benefit. But again, I always say, even these tools that I'm recommending to you, do whatever your company allows. Because I have worked for companies that would not allow us to use ChatGPT, even if you didn't use the company name, you didn't use the any people's name, you didn't use product names. It just wasn't allowed to use on your laptop. But if it is, I just talked to a Scrum Master that they have an internal private tenant of Copilot. So it is Microsoft Copilot, but it is unique to their organization. So they were able to use Copilot, but it was protected. But always go with what your company says. Now, with all that being said, I'm going to go back to what are three things I think every Scrum Master should know and do. And that's one, metrics and reporting, because like we talked about, being able to review even what artificial intelligence data analysis says, to say, hey, this one matches with what our observations are. Because remember, there's two types of metrics. There's quantitative metrics and there's qualitative metrics. Sometimes they match up and sometimes they don't. So that's where the human observation comes in that can't be replaced. Facilitation, this is a key thing that I think every Scrum Master should know how to do no matter what, because it's also something that AI can't necessarily do at this moment. You know, being able to read when somebody's coming in, like Jordan, thank you for rejoining us, right? Like being able to look and say nodding heads, or hey, somebody raising their hand like this, but not an emoji, or seeing the emoji raising their hand, or if somebody if you're looking at somebody and going, oh, what was that look that just went across your face, right? That's reading the room. That's the one skill that I think, one of the few skills that can't be replaced. They cannot read body language yet. So our AI right now, and if you want to, I always like to give very specific action items that you can do if you want to learn more about this. So there's an organization called International Association of Facilitators that you could take a look at as well. And as far as AI, I will tell you that originally I was thinking of this as the future, basically AI in the Scrum Master role. And I'm shifting away from that because AI is it's just another way for us to practice our resourcefulness. Great Scrum Masters are resourceful, and we try to do whatever we can that's going to help us be more effective and our teams be more effective. And we're helping, teaching, eliminating waste to our teams and moving things forward. And all of that looks like whatever tools we can do. And AI is one of those ways that we can do that. Okay. So if you want to leave here and level up, I can also tell you, I just signed up for AI for Scrum Masters from the Scrum Alliance. There's a live version. It's a 4-hour class, or on demand. I signed up for the on demand. I haven't started it yet, so I'm sorry, I can't tell you if it's good or not. There's another gentleman who has a program called AI for Agile that's also on demand. And then I'm in this business development program that is a longer duration. It's a 10-week program with 5 modules, and one of the modules is all dedicated to AI. But the person that runs that name is Marina Alex. She's super, she is an AI expert, and she posts a lot about AI on her LinkedIn. So again, if this is an area that is something you'd like to grow in, I would suggest following any of these organizations. Okay. Whew. All right, so call to action and how I can help you. First of all, if you are still engaged in this and you're still interested in either landing your first Scrum Master role, exploring what that would look like to you, or if you are wanting to see how your next role could look, feel free to purchase my book on Amazon, an ebook, paperback or hardback. I also do one-on-one coaching sessions, so feel free to reach out, and that's either prospective Scrum Masters or already practicing Scrum Masters. And then the second call to, and this is where, sorry, my QR code will take you to where you can schedule time on my Calendly. But I'm also looking for people to interview so that you can help me help you for my next book. I'm looking to interview Scrum Masters, managers of Scrum Masters, recruiters of Scrum Masters, and business owners so that we can all help each other be as effective as we possibly can as soon as possible. Okay. So we do have a few minutes for questions. Again, I want to say thank you for being here. And my first question to you is, I told y'all one of my goals is for this to have been one of your most productive times of your day. On a scale of 1 to 5, you can tell me if was this productive for you. 1 being like, no, I'm sorry I came. 5 being, no, I learned a lot from this. This is super valuable. Okay, so we got 4. All right, 5. 5, okay, awesome. And if you could answer this, what was the most valuable takeaway for you? Might take a little bit longer, or you can come off mute if you'd like. Okay, AI tools, okay. Thank you. Knowing about the book, the various AI tools, yeah. And there's so many tools, y'all. There's so many tools. And I will tell you, I also have some colleagues in my class that there are many tools that do the same thing. And some people are, some are better than others, but there's also that people that are more price conscious. So there are some things that, you know, weigh your options. In fact, you could use ChatGPT to tell me who are all your competitors. That possibly, I don't know. That's a prompt you can use. Let's see. Oh, somebody says, if we interview you, will we be listed in the book? Yes, if you allow me to. You get you get to give your permission if you would allow me to list you in the special acknowledgments of the book. Yes. All right. Let me go back to some of the questions. So someone says, what is your take on the CSM versus PSM? Curious about your perspective on the certifications. My perspective is they were started by, okay, now this is my my Scrum hat on, but I do not work for either of these organizations. Okay, I have my CSM. I have my CSM, my ACSM through Scrum Alliance. All right, Scrum Alliance is one of this conference's sponsors. But Scrum Alliance and Scrum.org were both started by the same people. They both both of the certifications run off of the Scrum Guide. But the CSM, there are things you have to do to renew it, and you have to take a class in order to complete the CSM. The PSM, Professional Scrum Master, you do not have to take a class to take it, but I have heard that that test is harder. I have heard from different people that this is a people-oriented role, and to complete the test without having to take a class, without any human interaction, I do think is a risk. Right. And if your goal is, I want to be around people as little as possible, then that is a key indicator, what I call key indicators that you might hate being a Scrum Master or not be very good at it. Because this is a people-oriented role and you want to make sure that you're good on it. So my take is, I would suggest either one of them. I believe also the PSM is less expensive, but I think both are seen in the industry and Scrum roles. If you're applying for a Scrum Master role, both are seen as legitimate. But I can speak that I attend meetups regularly that are by both organizations, and I can speak highly of both. That's my personal opinion. Somebody also asked, can you show the list of AI tools? Yes. And this is, so obviously Microsoft Copilot, Zoom AI Companion, but these are a list, wait, hold on. Are you seeing the AI tools for Scrum Masters right now? Okay, so somebody asked for me to put this back up. So that's an example. Somebody
Katrina,
asked,
would you list the one right before this? Yeah.
this one.
This,
Yeah.
yes, thank you.
Yep, Microsoft Copilot. So if you're on team, I never look at my emails, or my email inbox has 15,000 emails. Then Copilot can be helpful for you because it can help find emails and summarize. If you've been out for a week, and it can summarize emails, and it can summarize your team messages, and it can help help word things in Microsoft Word. Another one that I personally love, and I didn't list it here, is Grammarly. It is a Google plugin that I love it. I love Grammarly. Let's see, mostly done scrum.org events. Yeah, I've heard that PSM. Can you show that prompt and speak to its intensity? Is this the prompt, Elaine, that you were asking? Or which prompt? Okay, so this is just something that I submitted in across all of my social media platforms, as well as in different Scrum Master forums that I'm a part of. So I just gathered all the responses, but in my current interviews, I'm also adding to this. So I'm asking Scrum Masters directly when I interview. There's also, I have a Google form if people like to help me with my research, but don't have time for an interview. I would love that as well. I didn't include the links here, but you can reach out to me and I can send you the Google form if you're willing to.
So is this something, Katrina, is this something you just kept adding to over time and then you said, okay, it's ready? Or did you sit down for, like, you just wrote till you couldn't write anymore?
These are not my responses. These are, I
Oh.
asked the public. I asked Scrum Masters. In your role
Oh.
as a Scrum Master, what AI tools do you use and what actions do you use them for? So this is a conglomerate of all the people that responded to me. So some were ranged from Copilot's great. Some people said, I hate it and I don't ever want to use it again, like AI. I don't ever want to use it. And some people, the person, all these thumb up, that was from the same person. He's like, I think I need to do bullet points because this person uses, you know, AI all the time. So it ranged from novice to people that hate it. And so this was, I did not write these. I actually did not contribute to this.
You could actually have taken all of this, put a prompt and say, write a small book on what project managers are doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of
It's,
prompts that,
yeah.
there's a lot of prompts that can be taken. This can be, you can take and create clips of LinkedIn if you're trying to broaden your online thought leadership. Doing this kind of stuff can be helpful. And you can actually even ask ChatGPT, hey, out of this information, can you please create me 5 LinkedIn posts
Well,
of how, you know, and so that's 5. If you do
Yeah.
1 each day, then that can help the algorithms be able to share your content. So, well, again, y'all, thank you so much for your time. I think that we are at time and Lee has some remaining content, but I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions, and I would love to chat.
Well, very good. That was quite an exchange. I got to tell you, I didn't know what a Scrum Master was when I started. I do now, and I like the job. I mean, the job sounds interesting. I think it's a job that you can use a lot of different skills, and so and a lot of those are people skills, which I liked a lot. So I appreciate your time. And your effort, and sure, anyone knows you can reach out to Katrina anytime you want if you need a question answered or have anything that comes to mind after we're done here today. Otherwise, we'll call it a day.